I think one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs and business owners face is it's an all or nothing mentality. How can I be a little bit better than I was the week before? Don't look at what it's costing you. Look at what is this actually doing in terms of benefit. There are so many similarities with what it takes to build a great business as what it does to even improve your health and have a great body. I know I'm intense. I know I'm a million miles an hour, but it's because this isn't a job to me, it's a mission. I'm not special. Council estate kid from Coventry, had lots of ups and downs. I've had destructive behaviour patterns when I attach my whole identity to being a footballer and stuff. And if I can, you can.
Welcome to De-Stress Your Business, the podcast where we show you how to get incredible results in your business without constant stress. I'm Alexis Kingsbury, a serial entrepreneur and founder at AirManual. Now today, we're going to be tackling a concern that's often brushed aside, but is crucial for every business leader, and that's staying in shape. So I'm honored to have Kirk Miller with us. He's a world-leading transformation coach specializing in health, of business leaders. He's a Men's Health magazine cover model competition winner and has been on the cover numerous times. And he's worked with business leaders from around the globe to help them achieve peak physical and mental fitness, unleashing their confidence and getting them results in their personal and professional lives that they never imagined was possible. So it's awesome to have him here. Kirk, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexis. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. Was it 10 days ago now at EMC?
That's right. Yeah, we're both presenting it to the Entrepreneurs Marketing Conference. Yeah, no, it's following the conversation we had, it's like, I've got to get you on the show because I think we've got to dive into this topic. And where I want to start is, I mentioned that you specialize in guiding global business leaders to their physical and mental fitness. But to kind of illustrate that, can you perhaps share a specific transformation story that really stands out to you?
We work with genuine industry leaders all around the world, entrepreneurs, business owners. And I do think that managing their lifestyle and trying to keep them healthy is a lot different to a 20-year-old who can eat out of a Tupperware 6 times a day and live in the gym for 3 hours a day. They can't do that anymore. And I find the biggest challenge that a lot of people struggle with in the entrepreneur business world is that they're trying to do things that worked in their 20s that don't work in their 40s, 50s and 60s. When you have a business to think about, career, partner, most people have children. So it's like, okay, how can we look after us and fill our cup up, so we can give more. But the one prime example that I always love to share when people, and there might be people listening to this thinking, okay, can you really get and stay in great shape if you're busy and traveling, all this stuff, is Mustafa Sinur. So he is a genuine global business leader. He is, as well, he's been part of a company called Kunanago for nearly 30 years. He's on 300 planes a year, right? Traveling across all major continents, looks after thousands of people, of course, with team members and stuff. 52, yet he won our Client of the Year award last year. So we do awards and events as part of our community on top of the program we deliver. But you ask yourself, how did he win our Client of the Year and overcome 12 years of back issues when he joined us? This man did not lack motivation. And if you are a subscriber or follower of this podcast, I'm guessing you don't lack motivation either, because I really believe it does take a lot more blood, sweat and tears to build a fantastic business whilst looking after children and having a partner to think about. If you've achieved great success in your business, like Mustafa, you can certainly do it with your health and fitness. But where Mustafa was struggling, Alexis, and this might relate to a lot of listeners, he simply didn't know how to adapt his training at this stage of his life with the traveling, with the social pressures, with the business meetings, and then trying to find time for his wife and children. So with his training, we simply evaluated, based on his lifestyle, the hotels he's in, the countries he's traveling to, how can we have a best case scenario and get the biggest return on investment from his training time wherever he is in the world. So it's removing barriers. We literally simplify the structure of his workouts. So even if he's living at hotels, most hotels have a dumbbell and bench. Whereas one of the reasons he was maybe struggling before is he associated the gym with, I need 20 different pieces of kit and machine and I need to do a full hour's workout every time. That's not always the case, especially when he's jet lagged, for example. And this, again, might relate to a lot of listeners. So simply put, with training, and I'll talk about food in a second too, we made sure that he has a minimum standard non-negotiable when it comes to his training. So, for example, when he's on all these planes, and if you do the maths on that, it's an average of 1 every 3 days, we make sure that even if he's jet lagged, on an average week, he's getting in 3 30-minute workouts, even 20 minutes. So you always have that less but high quality workouts beats doing nothing. Because I think one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs and business owners face who have let their health slide or they're not where they want to be is it's an all or nothing mentality. If they can't do things perfect or like they did in their 20s, right? You're smirking at me because we spoke about this for yourself, right? And there's no judgment on this because I've got a lot of flaws, but the all or nothing mentality is one of the biggest problems in the entrepreneur world because it's like, oh, I can't do it perfect, so I won't do it at all. But by Mustafa just simply incorporating some shorter but high intense workouts, and they're not hitting none of these stupid workouts that you see. They're structured efficiently, so they're keeping him out of pain, but their quality within the time he has available. Then guess what? He does that first thing in the morning, wherever he's in the world. He's filled his cup up, and then he brings more energy and confidence and vibrancy to the rest of his day. Then with food, we help him forward plan his eating decisions when he's at hotels, when he can't eat off the perfect meal plan. Because I think, again, one of the reasons people are struggling, and this really gets my bonnet up, Alexis, is people are preaching the perfect diet or this one size fits all when it comes to food management. It doesn't work. The reason why so many people are struggling with the health and fitness, and Mustafa was with, he was carrying a lot of weight compared to what he does now. He's in fantastic shape now. It wasn't for the willingness of wanting to look after his health. He just didn't know how to eat at hotels, didn't know how to eat properly when it comes to business meetings, because he's on business meetings most evenings where he's having to socialize and eat food at restaurants, but he just didn't know how to make smarter choices. So even that, just like in business, you're forward planning. What challenges do I anticipate? What decisions do I maybe not know the answer to? And we just put a solution in place and go, right, in reference to your goals, this is how you're going to get your protein in. This is how you're going to make a smarter choice. And it's just forward planning, Alexis, which is key. And the same applies to movement, right? Movement is, rather than us trying to schedule for Mustafa, walk an hour and a half every day. Like, who can do that really in the world of entrepreneurship? Do this golden walk, get an hour session in, okay, plan 6 meals a day when you got business and kids and life to think about. So even just educating him on getting his 5-minute wins across the day. So if you do the maths on how many hours we're actually awake for the average person. So say Mustafa, 24 hours minus, say 7 hours sleep.
So
you're
17 hours that you
it's 17 hours. And even if you are scheduling 5 minutes of movement to get a glass of water and just walk around in every hour, you probably wouldn't be far off 8 to 10,000 steps in a given day. So you're optimizing his movement out without the pressure of him thinking, God, when can I schedule this hour to an hour and a half walk, which doesn't complement his personal or professional lifestyle. So basically, we looked at what he was doing, right, with his training, his movement, his food, and of course his sleep, but I don't want to go too deep into that today, right? And then go, right, this is what he's currently doing. How does he want to look? How does he want to feel? And how can we simplify the system that takes care of the inputs of training, movement, and food? And it's just looking at things very, very logically, Alexis. And I guarantee if you're listening to this, you would probably be doing the same in your business. You evaluate on a week-to-week basis, or even as a month, as a bare minimum, okay, what's going well and why? What am I doing that is moving me forward to where I want to be? And if you hit friction, you just look at the inputs that are creating the outputs. Now, for business owners, it's going to be, where's my marketing at? Where's my sales? Like, where am I spending? Where am I saving? What's moving the needle? And it's just looking at things on a week-to-week basis, going, how can I be a little bit better than I was the week before? And unfortunately, that don't sound fancy and glamorous, but a lot of people are being failed, Alexis, because these false expectations, as I spoke about on that stage at EMC, of the quick fix, this perfect diet. This is the diet that's going to get you ripped and drop 30 pounds in 12 weeks. Can you create enormous progress in 12 weeks, Alexis? Absolutely. But if it doesn't stick, right,
And what's the point?
it's as good as broken. And I refuse to do that, Alexis. I know what works short term, I know what works long term, but especially as an entrepreneur, business owner, you've got different life pressures, and you need to really simplify what you need to do, and just look at, on a week to week basis, how, like you would in business, how can I schedule when I'm going to train, when am I going to move, when am I going to eat, what am I going to eat, and what is the best case scenario in those three areas.
Yeah, I really love that. And what strikes me is that, similar, as you say, to other areas of business, and something that we would talk a lot about on this podcast, is about how do you make sure that you've got essentially systems in your business to remove the stress from various parts, right? You know, in other episodes, we'll talk about, you know, what are the systems that you need in place to make sure that your employee onboarding is a predictable process that gets you great results, or whether it's your sales process to get you good conversions, or whatever it is. You know, we're often talking about, by having those processes, the meeting rhythms, the systems in place, that means that you can get predictable results, even when you're crazy busy, even when you're on holiday, even when, you know, you get disrupted, or you're, you know, like me, and you're just chasing the shiny object of doing, you know, getting to work on something else. Everything else happens consistently. And it strikes me that to some extent, you know, that's what you're essentially proposing with the sorting out, getting in shape, is don't try and do the crazy things. Put it into systems, put it into things that are actually doable, that can happen consistently, even when you're doing loads of travel or you're short on time, or all these things. And I think that's so powerful. What's interesting, what sort of popped out for me though, is that a little bit like people's resistance against putting systems in their business, or even just following the systems in their business, is that challenge of mindset. Is that even if they know what they're meant to do, and it might be like what you're meant to do in terms of posting on social media, what you're meant to do in terms of the right way to have the sales conversation, or the right way to hand over a sale to your operations team, or the right way to do the submitting an expense or sending an invoice so that it doesn't cause an absolute pain for your finance team. The equivalent is, you know what you're meant to do when it comes to exercising and eating right, and yet people don't. And I know that for you, you know, I remember at EMC, you spoke brilliantly on how you can shift your mindset around that to make that easier, and that, you know, it's not this really painful thing. Can you talk a bit about that, about what are the mindset shifts that you recommend for business owners who feel fitness is at odds with their work and what else they're trying to do?
Absolutely. I think people need to do the same, or think the same, as what their driver and their motivation is within their business. So, for example, I'm yet to meet a business owner or entrepreneur who wouldn't know the answer if I asked them, what is your motivation for achieving a great business? What is your motivation for achieving wealth? I don't think I've ever took on someone in the last few years who hasn't said something along the lines of, I want to be successful and I want to be wealthy because I know it's going to improve the quality of my life, my relationships, be able to do nice things, create financial freedom for family, basically to give you a feeling for yourself and those you love most. Okay? But where people struggle when it comes to health and fitness, they don't ask themselves the same question. Now, what I shared at EMC was, I said, if you take away nothing else from this talk today, what you need to do, if you are someone who is stuck right now with health, fitness, and thinking, God, okay, I sort of know I need to train, Kirk. I know I need to move, and I know I need to eat healthy. Okay, but I still don't want to do it. You haven't stacked enough emotional value behind the outcome of being fitter, healthier, more energized. You need to stack the emotional value of that outcome to all of the other areas of life you value most. So what I mean by that is, take a moment to ask yourself, what are the areas of life I truly value most? If you're probably listening to this channel that Alexis has built, it's your highest values, well, somewhere near the top: business, making money, success, status, family. Okay, so what you need to do is ask yourself, how will being in great shape or better shape, more energized, healthier, improve my business performance, improve perhaps my productivity, my ability to sell, my ability to influence. As I shared on stage, Alexis, if you're in entrepreneurship and business, even if you're not the top dog in your company or you don't own the company, right, you have to influence in some way to get the outcomes you want. I'm yet to meet someone who, if they're not more energized, more confident, can't influence better. And all of us, don't forget, in business, right, we're all trying to get more done on a week-to-week basis or more efficiently. So if you are crystal clear in your mind of, right, instead of me looking at training as a chore of, as I shared on stage, Alexis, time, cost, pain, investment, don't look at what it's costing you, right? Look at what is this actually doing in terms of benefit? What is the return on investment of time and energy? And how is that going to help me be more productive, happier, more energized, and bring a better you to your relationship? And if you can pair those areas of life together, you will train more than you maybe are currently doing. You will eat a little bit better than what you're currently doing. But if we're not aware of the emotional benefit, the professional benefit, and the personal benefit of doing these things, even with the best plan in the world, you're not going to do it because you're not aware of the consequences if you don't do these things. More importantly, you're not aware of the deeper emotional meaning on your life, on your professional ambitions, on your money-making activities, and maybe your influence on your children as a better role model, okay? Sometimes, I know this might ruffle feathers, you got to hit yourself where it hurts to make the shift, okay? And that's, for me, what a lot of people neglect. Like, continually ask yourself, who am I trying to become as a person? And what are the behaviors, what are the habits that I need to do to help me become that person? Okay. And I just think the way the world of entrepreneurship is going, Alexis, I think those who neglect health and fitness, it's going to cost you at some point. And as I shared on stage, Alexis, it's not about six pack. As we get older, and I've just turned 40, right? And I've been the guy, as I shared on stage, it's been on Men's Health covers, but I was terribly emotionally insecure and skint back then. Full transparency, I looked exactly the same 14, 15 years ago, ripped, but was lost in life as a plumber before I got into my own business, right? Thankfully. So there's no judgment on anyone listening to this. I know what it's like to have a body, but be unhappy, like skint, thinking, well, where am I going in life? And now I know, okay, I'm in shape and I've got a business. And you can have both, but it's just you need discipline and you need structure, and you'll find there are so many similarities with what it takes to build a great business as what it does to even improve your health and have a great body. You need structure, you need a plan, you need to be really, really clear. Where am I? Where do I want to go? What is the why behind this? And how can I simplify the system that's going to take me there? Like you said a few minutes ago, what we're trying to do, and I feel this is what entrepreneur business owners in particular don't do, is, right, what is the outcome I want when it comes to health, fitness, body? And how can I simplify the inputs that are going to take me there? It's not complicated. Contrary to some of the bullshit that you see on social media and stuff, it's not complicated. There are 6 core drivers we need to manage on a week-to-week basis, right, in terms of managing our health and energy, right? We have training stimulus. Okay, I'm a big fan of weight training and cardio. Not essential, but just do something where you stimulate your body, create an output. You have movement, walking, something as basic as walking, right? The more you move, the more you can eat. And I'm yet to coach anyone who doesn't want to eat more food. Okay, they're called energy out metrics. Then we have energy in, food quality, food quantity, right? And then we have water and sleep. 6 things, Alex, honestly. And if anyone listening to this is thinking, right, God, this sounds a bit complicated. Even if you just wrote down those 6 things on a weekly basis and went, right, with my training, what am I doing now? Is that likely to move me forward to where I want to be in a week's time? Yes or no? Okay. If not, can I train a little bit more? Maybe a little bit harder. We'll do some I enjoy a little bit more, so I'm going to keep doing it. Movement, steps. What is my weekly step target right now? And is that helping me walk around with the body weight and the energy and the mood, perhaps? Because people forget movement shifts mood. That I want to walk around with. If it's a little bit low, can you increase that by maybe 500 steps more a day? So just small metrics. Same with food. Even if someone wasn't a big calorie tracker or didn't want to follow a diet plan, imagine putting all your food and alcohol, if that's your thing, on a table at the end of each week, going, right, looking at that quantity and quality of inputs, is that likely to move me forward to the energy, the health, and the body I want to walk around with? If not, how can I maybe eat a little bit less? What can I take out that's not really giving me much food volume per calorie? So it's nothing drastic, Alexis. And it's the same with like water and sleep. Water, just stay hydrated. Even if you drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day, right? Because if you're not hydrated, you're more likely to overeat. Most people, when they overeat, they're not actually hungry, right? Generally, I'm starving. Okay, is that the real reason? Have some water, and if you're still hungry, then maybe have something healthy. Same with sleep. Sleep, that's the thing that I struggle with, Alexis, full transparency, for a number of years. And you spoke about, when you need to improve things, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what I want to preach to everybody who's not quite happy right now or keeps putting health to the back of the pile. Don't wait for an emotional, physical, or mental trauma before that should do becomes a must do, as Mr. Tony Robbins has shared so many times, right? But unfortunately, some people do. And the reason I talk about sleep, Alexis, it took for a bicep rupture about 5 years ago for all of a sudden for me to respect sleep. Wow. Because I ruptured my bicep and I thought, God, I was just about to do a charity boxing fight, which was ludicrous with one arm, right? I didn't want to pull out the fight. I said to the surgeon, I'm not pulling out the fight. I can't, right? I've been shit talking the guy for a few months and I just couldn't be that guy. I thought, oh my Lord. Anyway, I reached out to this guy who was like the only guy who'd never had an operation after a bicep rupture. And said, what did you do to not have the operation to keep moving forward? And he says, ate well, trained well. I said, what's your food like, your training? I said, perfect. I said, what's your sleep like? I went 5 hours. And he went, no chance. You can do all of that, but if you're not sleeping well, that's when your body repairs. So if you are someone who struggles with sleep, I encourage you to pay more respect to that, because when you sleep better, you generally want to move more. You'll naturally be more motivated to train. You'll make it better to eat decisions. Most people overeat when they're tired, stressed, right? Which usually stress follows sleep deprivation. And not only that, from a business standpoint, Alexis, you perform better, you're sharper,
Agreed.
Your mental focus. I'm sure every single person listening to this episode, this show, they're going, oh, what is the edge to that extra mental sharpness? Be more efficient, get what I want in less time, blah, 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 blah. Like, so much of it is, how can I optimize my mental focus and mental endurance across a 8, 10, 12-hour period, however long you work for? Because the amount of people, Alexis, that have come to me going, I'll work 15 hours. And then you look at what they're eating, how much they're moving or not, how much they're training or not, and their sleep. It is scientifically impossible to optimize concentration and focus if you are eating shit, especially at lunch. You're going to have those energy dips. Yeah. You're not moving your body, because you can't have energy out without putting energy in. You have to create the energy, right? Yes, there are some people that are naturally high energy. And if you're one of them, brilliant. But imagine where you'd be if you topped up your own energy just by literally putting some inputs in, filling the petrol up, with some movement and a little bit healthier food. But again, it comes down to what we just said, Alexis. It's all right knowing these things, but it always has to come back to the emotional and the mental side of literally remind yourself on a daily basis, who needs me on my A game?
Yeah.
Who needs me in my A game? In business and the people I love, right? And also as well, I think sometimes entrepreneurs forget, this sounds brutal, but it's true. Mm-hmm. People forget who they're doing it for.
Yeah.
People will work like a dog at work, and then they come back, they're moody, they're fatigued, they're snappy with their partner.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, that's because they've dragged themselves, they've exhausted all their mental bandwidth, Alexis, at work, but then they can't give to the people
that actually matter,
they want to help. And as I'm just saying, there are inputs that I've just shared that can help with that.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think what strikes me from your approach and way of looking at it is that it isn't those massive shifts and so on. And often, particularly with the kind of people we're talking about, business leaders, etc., as you say, it often isn't that they're just absolutely stuck on the couch, really struggling to do anything at all. There is the motivation there. It's just these little poor health choices, whether it's about get it, going to bed too late because they're thinking, oh, well, I need to get that contract out. I'll carry on. And they work till 2 a.m. And then, they're getting up the following morning to get their kids to school and whatever. And as a result, sleep gets hit. And I can see the knock-on impact and the spiral that people go through then around their eating choices and the fact that they're then not exercising. And it just goes round. And I know it because I've been in it. Because, that's something that I always struggled with throughout arguably most of my life. I was overweight, and at one point got to a point where I think due to like BMI stuff, I was like more technically like morbidly obese kind of thing. I was like, right, that's it. Like I need. And I remember talking to myself in the mirror, which sounds like a really odd thing, saying, look, either like if you're okay with this, if you're not going to change it, like then be happy with it. Like stop beating yourself up for looking the way you do. But if you're not happy like this, then commit to changing it. And I remember thinking in that moment, and at the time, I think my son was probably maybe 6 months old. And so, what you were saying around mindset, around who are you doing it for, really chimes for me. Was I was just thinking, no, I do want to do something about this. I do want to change. And then it was that thought, like, so why not now? Why would you wait? And what's funny about the story is because often when I tell that story, I then say, and so then I got a personal trainer, and he helped me. Like, one of the first things I said to him was, I can do any exercise, but I don't want to run because I don't like how I feel running. So you're never going to get me to run. He's like, oh yeah, okay, Alexis. And then of course, after like 3 months, he'd got me on the treadmill. Oh, just for a little bit, or whatever. And by 9 months, I was ready to do the rat race, which was 20 miles and 200 obstacles. So like, he got me there. But the bit that I often leave out of the story is that from looking in my mirror and saying, so why not now? And actually arranging that first session with a personal trainer, I think there was a 3-month gap. And so that's what I want to speak to, get you to speak to, is perhaps from an example of a specific client that you've worked with, where the mindset, the habits and so on were so out of line with where they need to be. Because I think for some people listen to this, they'll be reasonably fit and they go, oh yeah, brilliant, I can make some tweaks. Some people will feel like they're not fit, but they kind of get, okay, yeah, the mindset shift, that'll really help for me. But for a lot of people, even in those camps, I think it's so easy to fall into bad habits. Something happens in your life, whether it could be significant, like a bereavement or whatever, and it just knocks all of your good choices and healthy habits out the way. And it's hard to get back in. Have you had an example where you've got a client where that's the biggest hurdle, is like even getting them to take those first steps of making the changes, and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, there's been many, many examples, Alexis, where people might have followed me for months and months and months, and they keep going, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I mean, there was a client once called Lee who he kept saying he was going to do it, was going to do it. And then it took his kid on a couch, who he loved. His kid was into football. It took his kid to say to him, "Daddy, what takeaway are we getting tonight?" For the penny to drop. Go, wow! Literally, I'm shaping my kid's habits and identity based off my behavior, because I've got a fantastic client inside my program, Alexis, called Richard Porter. And he hit the nail on the head with a share in our community once, where he said, and I'm not fortunate enough to be a parent, so there's no judgment on this, but one thing I do know, how you speak, how you move around, what you do, your clients will your children, will copy that. And he said this: children, yes, they listen to what you say, but by God, they have zero, there is no negotiation on copying what you do. They literally copy what you do. And I think sometimes, like Lee, for example, and, other clients, maybe people listening to this, it just takes something brutal like that for that should to become a must do. And honestly, I'm not trying to say anyone listening to this is wrong or bad. And like you said, Alexis, if someone's happy with how they are when they look themselves in the mirror, cool, no judgment whatsoever. But you can't bullshit yourself. You can't bullshit yourself. Like one of the best things you can do if you're stuck is ask yourself, who am I at my best? Like, what are the traits? What are the words? If you were to describe yourself at your absolute best, for example, what's made you successful? Like, I always like to think, pick the 3 words that made you successful. And for a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, it would be driven, focused, right? So my message is, you've got it inside you. You have demonstrated in your life so far, through blood, sweat, and tears of building a business, or at least working your way up the ladder in your career. At some point, that was just aspirational. So you have the traits. And if you are in a sticky spot just now with your health and fitness, ask yourself, what did I say to myself, or what do I say to myself when I am literally thinking of nothing? The last thing you want to do is work and push through that adversity and go to that next level and put the extra hours in. What do you say to yourself? What do you do? What do you do with your body? And replicate that with your health and fitness right now. So hopefully that sort of sums up what you're trying to get at, Alexis. Like, whether it's a client example or not, is when you are stuck, think about who you are at your best and what you actually do that's help you overcome plateaus, adversity, sticky spots where you really didn't want to do something in business, but you did it. And you demonstrate the same behaviors, the same attitude. And honestly, even if you're just thinking, God, that is the last thing I want to do, but just start and push through, because like, once people get that momentum, and that's all they need, then get addicted to the feeling of following through and keeping your promises to yourself. The biggest confidence builder, Alexis, you would have found this, right? When you took that plunge and you've gone, right, I'm going to level up. Nothing builds confidence more than saying you're going to do something and following through on it. Think about, as a business owner, and I'm sure everyone listening to this has a superpower in their business, where if someone asked them, right, what's made you great in business, or how would you describe yourself, they would reel off, I don't know, I'm fantastic at sales, I'm a great leader, I'm this, right? Okay. But like, what's built the confidence in you in that given area is, you had a target, you had a blueprint, you had an expectation, and you've done whatever it took to meet that. That is why you are now confident in that given area. And I'm just saying that you can do the same in your health and fitness, right? Literally, like, even if you just lowered the bar a little bit and went, right, if I'm stuck, how can I just set a small expectation in a week's time? I'm going to do 1,000 steps a day more than what I did last week. If I keep saying I'm going to get 3 sessions in, why don't you just say, get 1 session in next week, hit that expectation, notice how good it feels to follow through on it, then shift the yards up a little bit. But I think what happens is, when you've been in this sticky spot, and maybe this relates to yourself, Alexis, where you've had 2, 3, 4 months or even a couple of weeks off, you're like, oh, I've got a mountain to climb now. And you just think, God, I've got to work so hard to get back to where I was. Forget that. Just literally focus on what would be a win in a week's time, and how good would that feel to follow through on that. And then you can build momentum on there. And that's why I'm so big on doing things sustainably over a period of, of a calendar year, Alexis. Like with our Book to Last program, I don't work with anyone for less than a year, because I know how things take time. Like, it might sound a bit boring, but when you're nicking small wins week to week and you're matching your expectations for the majority of those 52 weeks, that compound effect of being on it, however small, is going to compound. By default, you'll be leaner, you'll be fitter, you'll be healthier. Instead of going, right, God, I've got to completely turf my calendar up, stop work, cut my missus at the equation, I can't see my kids for 12 weeks. Yeah, you might be able to do that, but it's not going to, eventually you're going to break, and then you're going to go, back to square one. And the problem is, the more times people keep repeating this cycle, Alexis, you condition it as part of you. And all of a sudden you become this person that you label yourself as, I'm not cut out for it. I'm a nearly person, I'm a talker. And you're not. I just think it's the biggest problem in global health and fitness where people struggling with is, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, because we're quite obsessive, myself included, people. There's no middle ground. It's, I'm either all in or all out. And guess what? That might work in business, doesn't work in health and fitness.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Kirk. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for, but it's been so great talking to you about this. Your insight has been absolutely fantastic. For people who'd like to learn more from you, see some of the other examples of the work you've done, get some resources and guidance, I know that you've got a fantastic blog. I'll make sure that we share a link to your website at kirkmiller.co.uk. Any other resources that you'd recommend that people check out?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Alexis. I I love your energy. I really do. You and your team, you're doing a fantastic job. And just happy to support the channel. And anyone who's listened this far, I know I'm intense. I know I'm a million miles an hour, but it's because this isn't a job to me. It's a mission. I'm just fortunate enough that I've been able to scale and build a great business and team around it and make a difference. But for those of you who are looking for enormous amounts of free value across all of my social media channels, Kirk Miller, I have a podcast myself, which I'll have to get Alexis on at some point too, called the Kirk Miller Podcast. I deliver an episode every single Monday. Just again, enormous amounts of free value. I've got YouTube as well, Kirk Miller. And yeah, of course, you want to check out any of my work. It's kirkmiller.co.uk. And one thing I want to make sure, and I say this to everyone, if you are exploring anything I do, yes, I might, a lot of coaches, they talk the talk, but if you are remotely intrigued to see what I do professionally, don't just listen to what I say, listen to how, and don't just look at how we make clients look, listen to the words they say and how we make them feel. Because honestly, I don't know if I'm getting a little bit deep on this now because I've just turned 40, Alexis, but yes, it's important to care about how you look, but it's more important to be aware of how you feel about how you look and be in control of your emotions and thoughts and feelings, because the quality of our conversations to ourselves when no one else is around is the true metric of how happy we are. And I'm just saying, I'm not special. As I said on the EMC stage, council estate kid from Coventry, had lots of ups and downs. I've had destructive behavior patterns when I attach my whole identity to being a footballer and stuff. And if I can, you can. And just the last takeaway message I want to share, Alexis, is because we haven't spoken about this. If you are stuck, one of the best things you can do to really get yourself out of a hole is seek out an environment or a peer group who are healthy and have the identity that you are trying to aspire to live with. Go and find people who value health. Go and find people who train consistently. Go and find people who eat healthy, because guess what? You will just implement so much more consistently being around that mentality. It really does make that much difference. So thank you so much for having me, Alexis.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And thank you, Kurt. That's those top tips are absolute gold dust. I really, really appreciate it. And for people listening that we've talked a lot about mindset. We've talked about the things that you can put in place. One of the things that I see is very common for business owners is that they're struggling to free up the time to work on their business and feel like, oh, well, I've got so much that I need to do day to day. I can't even imagine finding time to do 1,000 steps and so on. If you want to see exactly how you can free up more than 15 hours per week, that's basically 2 working days per week super quickly, and do so using a framework that helps you remove the constant stress of running a business without slowing down your growth and actually unlock it, then do check out the recording of a masterclass that I ran. You can find it at airmanual.co/webinar. Go check it out. You'll find it absolutely game-changing. But otherwise, this has been fantastic, Kirk. Thank you so much. I'm feeling pumped. I'm wanting to go out for a run. I'll be picking up my kids shortly, so I'll be doing that on a hell of a pace today. But for everyone else, if you found this episode useful, obviously subscribe to the podcast so you can hear more guidance from amazing people like Kirk on how to scale your business while enjoying the journey. But if I can ask a favor, please give the podcast a quick 5-star rating so that other people can get to benefit too. It makes a huge difference to this channel and the ability for us to reach people. So really appreciate it. But otherwise, thank you again to Kirk for taking the time out to talk to us, and to everyone else. Otherwise, until next time, have fun.